Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Finalysis, Avatar The Last Airbender. I am Retty4, this is Greyjoy91.
Hello.
And this is Antoine Bandelet.
Be water, my friends.
Lead us in with the summary, Matt.
Alright, this is Book 2, Episode 5, Avatar Day. We got like a little bit of a courtroom drama episode for you guys today, as well as Zuko steals things. I guess that's his side plot. So, like we have like a discussion of ethics, like these competing philosophies or interpretations of the good, at war here in this episode. So let's go ahead with Avatar Day.
Intro scene then, Spider Mouth. It's a weird little intro from Momo just sticking his hand down Sokka's throat. Followed up with the actual intro of the ambush of the Rough Rhinos, which are pretty interesting characters in terms of visual aesthetics. Obviously, there's nothing more.
Wait,
than
are
that,
they legit called Rough Rhinos?
Yeah, they're the Rough Rhinos.
Oh, wow.
Did they introduce themselves as that in this episode? I can't remember.
It's mentioned at one point in the episode, but not at the start. It's later on in the episode they get called out. He announces themselves when they go and attack the town.
I know for sure at some point they tried to capture Zuko and Iroh, and like they sort of like Iroh describes them as like a fighting force / musical band or something like that. It's like a very Iroh witty comment, but it comes later.
Yeah.
I can't remember under what circumstances that is, but in any case, they attack.
But yeah, they're not really characters other than just the fact that they're a threat. But I like the visual aesthetic they put into them. Each got kind of a unique feel. One of them's Yu Yang Archer, by the looks, and they've got the kind of knight armored one, which is very cool. Again, just bringing out a nice
tell he's a
little
Yu Yang Archer. Is it because of his face paint?
Facial markings.
Face paint, yeah.
I would guess.
Oh, okay.
I would get, and I don't think he talks, but not that any of them really do, aside from
none
the
of them
leader.
do really. Yeah.
But it feels like the episode just needed a fun, exciting way to get started here. So they just dropped them in.
And I guess the fact that they need to come back later is too. They want to set them up at least vaguely.
Yeah, and Sokka sort of loses his boomerang, which.
Yeah, the idea is, okay, so we've got time to get your scrolls and his staff, but not my boomerang. It's like, oh, poor Sokka.
Yeah, pretty much.
I feel like his facial expressions were weird in that scene too. It's like it's almost like the lines didn't match the way his face looked. Like he went like, oh, and like his face was like that, and it was like, that's weird.
Yeah,
it was just sort of silly. But in the next scene, he's then like tying his identity to his boomerang, which is just a little odd because I would never have done that up to this point in the series, and even really afterward, I suppose.
If anything, you were like the plan guy, not like the boomerang guy.
Or as kind of happens when like the guy's like, "Hey, ponytail guy." If I had to describe Sokka, he's the one with the ponytail. I mean, I wouldn't have said he's the guy with the boomerang because he doesn't, right? Warriors, wolf's tail, whatever.
But
before we move on, I do like Dynamite Guy's helmet. The dude who looks like he has like Kendo mask going on.
It's the coolest.
Like I like that design
the whole
right there.
The night style. It's kind of unique for Avatar. Very cool.
Right.
He also seems to be kind of the most useless one though. But,
yeah, that's true.
But that sort of comes back later. His weapon comes back to bite him, or all of them really. But anyhow.
But as Sokka's kind of bemoaning the loss of his identity with his boomerang disappearing, they kind of find out about Avatar Day from the stall worker who heads back into town and says, "Hey, have a good Avatar Day," and they're like, "Oh, interesting," and they decide to pay it a visit for obvious reasons, and Kyoshi burns before their eyes.
I was like, where was the dude, the water bending avatar, the one with the face stiller situation?
He wasn't worthy of
it. they only it starts, the grievance starts with Kyoshi, so it's only the avatar since her. He would have been before. Yeah, so it's like he's cool, like he's all right.
That makes sense.
Only,
okay.
Which is funny to me that like Roku went like his entire like avatar ship without like.
Interacting with them, even though they're on the east coast of Earth too. So
you would think, maybe I should go, smooth this one over, but no. And
it's very funny because it's similar to
as well. that they were burning. You know.
Yeah, because he is the current one. But it was like the Olympic ceremony that was going on because like they use a torch to come in, but instead it's like they're not like celebrating some sort of event, or they are doing event, not like a positive event, but a burning, an effigy.
Yeah, and that guy, by the way, with the torch bearer, whatever they're called, the way he moved, because he was like a fairly acrobatic person, and he had like long black hair. He looked like an early, almost like an inspiration for Ghazan, the lava bender.
Oh, I can definitely see Ghazan in that dude for sure.
Yeah,
it's even down to the way he moved. Yeah.
Oh, for sure, dude.
Yeah, but that was like my interesting little take on that scene. Otherwise, I found him, just sort of a background character.
Yeah, but very similar frame. Yeah, you're right. I noticed an animation glitch as well. When Sokka's eating and the food falls out of his mouth, halfway down the screen it disappears. So there's
that
little
happens
frame
occasionally.
glitch.
It's just
I noticed
on a few frames of drawing.
I noticed something like that, but it's later. It's like way at the end of the episode. But if I remember, I'll bring it up. I usually don't notice things or flaws because there really aren't.
And that kind of stuff works when it's the old school TV, like when you're just watching this and you like, I think I saw that, but I can never identify that because I'm just continuing on with the episode. Versus like in today's age where people can like download or be on YouTube and frame and freeze frame it, and they're like, oh my god, look at this frame, and then you put like the circle and the arrow through it or whatever, It 15 mistakes you didn't notice in this episode.
Oh god, and that's a horrible. Yeah, that is actually a thing that exists. Yeah, no, it's by no means criticism, of course. It's just fun to note these things considering how rare they are in Avatar. It's like, oh look, they dropped the ball for like this minutest moment in the entire thing. But yeah, we get
the least sympathetic Zuko is.
Yeah, we get the Zuko Blue Spirit stealing.
He's just being a jerk because he stole like 2 cartons of bread or whatever it was, and they weren't even nutritious bread. They were like pasties or like conchas or something like that. Even I know they're not conchas. That's a totally Mexican dish,
right?
Or dessert, but
well, whatever.
But still,
it's
very similar.
They look like they were jelly filled, which but in any
even
case,
more so. It's like I can't identify with you right now, Zuko. This is not Robin Hood anymore.
The thing is like you get it when it's like Aladdin. Like I'm going to steal like this loaf of bread because I don't have anything. But he took like everything.
Now he's just like enjoying it too much.
Yeah, he seems like he just has that mentality that it's sort of owed to him still, I guess, because he's Prince. He hasn't he hasn't gone through his arc yet, which he's about. Right.
Despite the fact that he's the Prince of the Fire Nation as well, as like you don't have any claim to Earth Kingdom like stuff, Zuko.
Well, we're at war taking all their shit, right? So I mean, I can pillage, I guess, because
it's definitely
in the name of the Fire Nation.
It's definitely him that is least relatable, that's for sure. I wouldn't mind if it was just like I said, the rich thing when he steals from the old guy later on. That's perfectly fine. But stealing from the workers and
that
makes sense.
I'll get to. I forgot about that one. We'll get into that one in a second.
But Iroh disapproves, but still eats. He's like,
has his suspicions, but he's hungry, so he's gonna go ahead
and it's delicious. So
yeah, you can't blame him on that one. But yeah, Katara stops the burning in the town, and Aang kind of jumps up to try and talk to the townsfolk, find out what's going on, why they are burning statues of him, and ask for a chance to clear his name.
Because you killed our leader, Chin.
Yes, our great noble leader. James Hong, who
were basically like the Fire Nation. He was like the Fire Nation of like that time period.
Pretty much, yeah. Which is interesting that's not the point that Kyoshi argues against later on, really. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, there's a few things to talk about on that one. Yeah, there's a few things to talk about on that one, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what the novel's about.
I can't wait.
It's like right after the separation.
Don't screw the novels up, please.
And it is about her actually taking back the Earth Kingdom.
Did we mention
I believe we mentioned it last episode.
Did we?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I have like no memory for this stuff anymore, like because the way that we record these things. But in any case, you mentioned James Hong played the mayor. Yes. I think you said that. Okay.
Who's that?
Yeah, the voice actor. I'm sure he has like a huge body of work, but what comes to mind is Kung Fu Panda's dad, who sells the noodles.
The duck.
But in any case,
Was he also the scribe in Mulan?
Yeah, in Mulan. Yeah, I was gonna
Oh,
say.
he
Yes,
was.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and he looks like the same dude too.
Yeah,
Pretty
he
much,
almost
yeah.
always does, and he
Exactly.
does exactly the same voice in everything I've seen him in. Pretty
that's
much
cool,
everything I've
that's
recognised
cool.
him in. That's why I said
I
James
miss
Hong.
Mulan,
James
man.
Hong.
I swear, guys, if we do that Mulan stuff,
We
put
are
me in there.
absolutely doing Mulan at some
Okay.
point. I will not allow otherwise. But yeah, he obviously introduces them to the idea of
I think-
why they're doing this.
He's like a very one note or one dimensional character that I, for whatever reason, still find entertaining to a degree in this episode. Sometimes this kind of stuff is hit or miss for me. And like super one dimensional characters like the Earth Queen, like later on in Korra, like just really fall flat for me.
Mhm.
But I find him ridiculously unreasonable and like just stupid, but at the same
But
time
you're
I find
okay
him
with
fun.
it. Yeah, I'm also okay with him too. I don't have any major issues with this character.
Likewise, he's not major enough a character to have problems, from the one dimension.
Rather than the Earth Queen, who
who was supposed to be more
at least an arc
significant.
with. I think
Yeah,
it was like
she's
a 3-episode
supposed to
arc
be
we
a
had with her,
significant
so-
character. Yeah, if she'd
Right.
just been a minor one episode thing, perfectly fine. But she's not. She's an actual part of the plot, which that's unacceptable for the depth she was given. But yeah, it works for him because he's just this one note comedy.
It's his
character.
It's his delivery of the lines as well that like I enjoy. Like they're just so stupid, and sort of like overly dramatic. He's a functional comical character.
Yeah.
Like comedy is subjective. It either makes you laugh or it doesn't. But in this case, it works for me.
Oh, what I like in the next scene is the return of like the anime sensibilities, which first starts when they're talking to Aang in the prison, which Aang could totally escape from, which is really cool. I mean, also with the headstock too, like we see that he's just like,
But he
whatever.
takes it off later on.
With the wall too, like that wall, he can easily scale with his like his airbending. But yeah, with Sokka going like, you can just be doing your airbending stuff and like you do your slicing, and then also that comes up later with the frothing mouth guy at Kyoshi Island. So it's like those little bits are always like my little favorites. Those little animation moments.
It had the
It was
fisheye
funny.
kind of lensed camera as well when it did that shot, which was added to the comedy for me.
Yeah, that's true. Fish Islands. I also like the establishment of why they bother, because like this was really kind of like a plot that they don't actually really need to deal with. They could totally
Right.
leave. But I do like Aang's mentality here, being that I need to like regain the respect of the world, or or even if like one of my past lives did do something, I like that Aang tries to walk his talk like wherever he can, and give people like their turn, or like give them the floor to speak, and try to, he's trying.
Yeah.
But it's acknowledged in the episode that he could just fuck off and like not deal with this. I enjoy that.
Yeah, it's a hearts and minds thing. He's got to win the hearts of the people if he wants to change, the way the world is going to work. And he's not yet aware of the ridiculousness of this town. As far as he's concerned, it's going to be a fair trial. So yeah, it makes sense that he's going to at least try to. And worst comes to worst, they just get out of there and get on with their mission. So it's nice that he at least this scene explains why they're not just doing that. Because as ridiculous as this episode is, it at least makes the vaguest degree of sense. They didn't just hand wave it all completely, which I like.
I also like how they got Sokka into being detective. Yeah.
I was gonna mention,
Like forcing him into it.
Aang isn't very often manipulative, but it's him. He's the one that starts this, not Katara. She sort of jumps in on it, but Aang's the one that initiates the. For some reason, I thought you were a brilliant detective, Sokka. He's like, oh yeah, I am, aren't I?
Yeah, and then she goes into the Sil Jerky scenario, and he's like, "Oh yeah," and then he like goes through the whole scenario about why it happened that way and how he's such a good detective, and then he has his job and his role to do. And then when he puts on the little head contraption, it made me think. I wonder if he would have been very good friends with Varrick, and if they had overlap. But I'm not sure if they did or did not. Because I know Sokka died.
He would have absolutely
earlier.
been good friends with Varrick. Whether or not he actually encountered him when he was alive, I don't know. But yeah, no question in my mind.
Yeah, that's a funny thing. He would have been friends with like late Varrick.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
after
yeah.
Varrick got his shit together, like because he was a very shady person at first. But yeah, so who knows? It is a question mark. There's definitely overlap within their personalities where they could be friends. I don't know. That's a conversation though that we can have at some point.
As we get to go on through the episode as well, I like the fact that we actually see him competent detective. He's not just this showboating person who has Katara solve everything for him.
Right.
He is actually, both of them, the siblings, are actually pretty good. But we'll get to the individual moments of that as we move forward. Zuko then at this point
theft.
robs the Earth Kingdom Richmond.
This I thought this was a bit silly because Earth Kingdom rich guy was literally like, look at all my gold. Well,
I know.
like, I was like, really?
And I love how we're supposed to assume of the audience that he got that by some nefarious means when he could have just been like, oh, I've earned this after like, spending all my time working for this. I'm gonna go on vacation. No, I'm gonna go to freaking Kyoshi Island and like live it up or whatever, And like we're supposed to assume that no, he's a bad guy and yeah, you must have your gold stolen.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like
it's a fair assumption.
Big deal, but it's just this isn't a high point of the show for me. It sort of gives Zuko an out, like on a subliminal level, when you think well, he route from like a douchebag anyway, whereas really, like you just said, that guy could be perfectly reasonable in how he got it. So it's shame on you again, Zuko.
Yeah, exactly. Still, I'm like, what are you doing, Zuko?
Yeah, 3 episodes
now you're just having a high off of this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, which it makes sense given the context of his character at the moment. It's just, as we said, it's not the most relatable he ever is. It's definitely his low point in the story or his arc. But yeah,
I think this is like the low point for Zuko in the series for me. Like he's usually even when he was like the antagonist in the first series, after you understand why he's doing what he's doing, you're on board. You know what I mean?
And even later when he makes the mistakes that he does, the tragedy and the delivery of it all, it makes you And the struggle he's clearly feeling, you're on board with him at least in spirit, if not the actions he's taking. So this is definitely the worst part of his character. It's not even that bad because he needs to have a moment like this for us to he needs to have a low point in his arc at some point. But and this is a relatively mild one considering what he could have done. But yeah, it is still the low point for me as well.
I think it's almost low point because I think even the ending of season 2 is even a low point too because we really are like on board with him. And then when he does what he does, it's like, well, come on.
Yeah, but he struggles.
I think that was more of a betrayal.
But he struggles with it.
But he had a struggle. That's true. He had more of a struggle with
and the delivery, of course, it makes it, at least on a narrative level compelling, if not on a personal level. You're not with him in that decision, but you buy it as drama, which is why it sells better, I think.
The thing that also helps that is not to make that a big point of debate right now because we should save that mostly for when we get there. But the portrayal of those scenes is clearly that he's at war within himself, even as he's doing it. You know what I mean? So he's
versus now where he's not.
He doesn't care about what he's doing right at this moment.
Yeah, and obviously when he gets to that point as well, the fact that he's at war when he's made the decision, it's like, oh, now I'm stuck. It's not even if he immediately regrets it, he can't get past it. So yeah, it's really well played off later. But like you said, whereas here there's no struggle, so we don't care. And yeah, it's just it's his low point. But Sokka finds a hole in the mayor's story by way of the statue's age.
It's funny to me, and this is not, I'm not dogging on the episode for this. These things are only like 20 minutes long. I get it. But it is funny to me that like he immediately found a clue. Like after like 30 seconds on the case, he's like, okay.
That's the thing with any kind of TV. Even with CSI, I remember I was talking to a real forensic officer, and they're like, it takes months for us to get all that like data and like actually take it to courts and the system, and then like the TV show makes it look like it happens within a week. It's like they don't happen in a week.
Zoom, enhance.
Or sometimes some of them don't happen ever.
That's
what cold case files are called.
Right. Very true.
Crime solving is not all fun and games.
Yeah, but it's not a criticism of the episode with like the limited time crunch that they have to do this. But it was just funny. Like they immediately know that there's something wrong with this story.
And to an extent, it makes sense. I mean, the others aren't exactly looking for flaws in the story, are they?
Right. Town. Yeah, and that's the thing is like the episode isn't really about a commentary on like the folly of like just strictly oral history or whatever, but it is like the time gap was like greater than I remembered because I always forget about the 100 years that like Aang was frozen.
Right. So the 370 is like what?
It's almost 400 years ago.
Kyoshi's supposed to be the oldest living Avatar, correct?
Yeah, she's 217 when she died.
When she died.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Best Avatar.
They're like wizards. It's like wizards.
Yeah, but I get the impression that in this world, that's odd. Like
that's definitely pushing the outer boundaries. Yeah, it has to be because the way they always talk about it. She was the oldest living Avatar.
I mean, because like people like a Zulon, the Fire Lord before Ozai, he looked really fucking old, but he couldn't have been more than like 90, which is like normal for us. You know what I mean?
Right.
But in any case.
They find a footprint and it's like this footprint's pretty small.
Yeah, and
then it's just like
they decide to go to Kyoshi.
No, they didn't realize that at the time, right?
They just saw there was a footprint. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
the realization comes later with the relic room. But they decide to go to Kyoshi because they need to go and find some, see if they can find any kind of alibi for her later on. And Aang encounters the threatening prisoners.
I like that the group has to kind of like split up to solve this thing, and even in the course of the episode, because they don't do it that often. Like they leave Aang in prison and go back to Kyoshi Island to solve this.
Yeah, and
or
I
even
like
the
as
realistic
well
depiction of. Oh, were you going to say the Kyoshi warriors being gone?
Well, that as well, but I'm going to mention that in a minute. The other thing is the travel. Initially, I thought, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. No, wait, it does make sense. Of course, it makes sense because this is the island's close because this is where the island originated. Yeah, so in terms of the world distance and traveling time, that it makes sense that they can do that. They can just stop by Kyoshi and such.
It's also sort of near, like, Omashu, so it's like it makes sense for them to still be in that realm of the Earth Kingdom after what we already saw before.
And if we're going to be talking about realism in terms of the travel, we can do it by way of Zuko's hair, because the last time we saw him cut his hair, they were still coming from the North Pole. And then the next time we see them in Omashu and dealing with all that situation, and we see Zuko again, his hair looks like it's been growing for at least a month, at the very least. It could be more than that. But there definitely is consistency with the time travel throughout the world.
Yeah, they put some serious thought into this. I mean, even just the rough location on the map, like Matt said, Omashu being close as well. It fits, so it's nice to see them paying attention to those details. But yeah, Aang encounters the threatening prisoners. We'll get to see where that goes in a second. But yeah, the typical
the snaky guy
appears and goes, "You're gonna fit in perfectly." And then we get to Katara and Sokka arriving on the island. We get the rehash of the Avatar. He doesn't actually say at that point. He just freaks out. But for
he's
me,
like, "What's wrong, guys? Don't shoot!"
The moment that makes it funny for me, even though it's a replay of the original, joke, is that when afterwards they linger on him feeling shame and putting the hood up, or they're putting the jacket over his head and then walking off screen. That's the funniest bit for me because it's a kind of a development on it. And yeah, it was amusing. But they talk to the leader, who then takes them to see the Kyoshi relic room.
Which we were talking about before. He mentions about how the Kyoshi have joined the war effort now, which is not like just like even if you look at the previously on Avatar thing, you would think, oh, he's gonna see Suki again. But it's very cool that it's like, oh no, she went off to fight. Like she's living her own life as a character. She doesn't just like stay on Kyoshi. Very static as like a video game character who's like, oh, I'm gonna wait until the main character comes to talk to me or something like that. It's like, no, like she's going to go off and do her own thing. Yeah,
and the thing that stands out to me, and the thing I want to talk about more, is that the reaction of Sokka going through it, like as they're walking up, which is good use of space, by the way. They actually make Kyoshi Island feel like a place because they walk up the hill, showing the dojo from the original time they were here alongside, and then over Sokka's shoulder as he's looking back, kind of understanding what the leader's talking to him about, telling him about her. I love that they use the space because it makes it feel like a real place. They're not just smash cutting to them being outside the relic room and discussing this. But yeah, more than that, Katara's reaction to Sokka, as he mentioned, Suki was funny. The facial expression, Sokka's just general reaction to the leader's words was interesting and engaging. And yeah, like you said, the fact that the Kyoshi warriors are out, it just makes sense. Also sets up us seeing them later, because otherwise that would come out of nowhere. But yeah, it's just really well done, and just the shot where it's over these dojos over Sokka's shoulder, really nicely angled, and the focus in of it as they're talking about it, very cool.
I like how you guys are pointing out like the non-static nature of these characters on the one hand, with like Suki doing her own thing, but at the same time, the guy Oyagi, or like whatever his name is, the guy that runs the village, it does seem like he's just on like permanent Kyoshi ass kissing patrol, because like that's all he did. Like the first time was like, welcome to Kyoshi Island, it's so great here, it's Kyoshi, and they're like, hey, Aang's on trial for like something Kyoshi like murdered. Kyoshi murder, that's ridiculous, I'll show you right away. It's like this guy is like, he lives to stop like Kyoshi's reputation.
It's the opposing. It's like how they are with Chin on the mainland, and how he is with Kyoshi. Because it's funny too, when you do see the story, it is technically true. I mean, well, no, he kills himself, honestly. But I mean, she wasn't completely. Well, actually, even though I don't think she killed him, she herself like admits to it or whatever, which is kind of weird.
Well, she later says that she would have done. She doesn't see the difference.
She brags about the fact that she would have done whatever needs to be done. Yeah, like later on,
including killing him, which makes sense too, because that's consistent with later on when Aang tries to get advice from her. Because he's trying to find the non-lethal way of dealing with Ozai, and she's like, everybody tells him like, you need to kill him, and he's like, what? Why are you guys
brings it up? Yeah, he brings that up. He's like, you didn't really kill Chin. I saw the story, and she's like, well, I mean, I would have though.
Yeah, I don't really see the difference. I would have done it.
Yeah,
yeah. That's the thing I like about it. This comes up again later. It's not nothing in the story. Even now, it's relaying groundwork in the back of your minds.
I also like that it makes sense for an Earth bending or an Earth Kingdom avatar to think that way. You know what I mean? It's like for example, when we see how things go with Roku and Sozin, that just would have ended there at the temple, like where Roku spared him. Like Kyoshi would have just killed him, because that you know, I mean, what are you doing? Like you're waging war, like behind my back.
Right.
Like you've already had your chance and you ruined it. But Roku is sort of like that in between those two stages, where like Aang is like the pacifist. Like Kyoshi is no pacifist. That's for damn sure.
Mm-hmm. She's effective.
Which is a wonder of why Chin was able to have such free reign on the Earth Kingdom like he did.
Yeah,
it's like, what's the explanation that what was Kyoshi doing at that time?
That's when we get to the story. That's what I want to talk about the most, because that's the thing the biggest flaw I have with this episode is like that doesn't fly given everything we know. Even if it comes later, obviously it's going back on knowledge, but still. It just doesn't really fit for me. But we get
also it's kind of interesting that she's not only the oldest but the biggest avatar as well.
Yes.
It's an interesting tidbit.
We get the relic room and they find out here that the boots are like gigantic. She is a titan of a woman, size wise.
Right. She's like a Brienne of Tarth or something like that.
Yeah, but the thing is, I get the impression that Jin was like short anyway, so that's why he's like literally like
really short.
But yeah, she is huge. And she's female. She's huge. You know, she's like an Amazon.
Right. Yeah.
Like because it's not just the height as well; it's the proportions. Her arms are like twice the size of his. It's crazy.
It's not like she's lanky. She's like equally proportionate everywhere.
Yeah.
So she's like NBA player.
Yeah. She's literally Titan style. She's like a Thanos sort of scale.
What Toph is in spirit, like just Kyoshi is in body.
Right.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and and she is the earthbending avatar, so it fits. It makes sense that she is this solidly built frame. It's cool. It fits the whole aesthetic of the show and the idea of the philosophies and stuff. For the avatar to be that way. But we get the relic room, as I said. They've realised that the boots are too big. She couldn't possibly have been out of Kyoshi's footprint. And Sokka gets a bit, ridiculous with the whole solving it with Katara, because he's like, Katara, I want to solve it. Do you not see the hat? And which sets up the line later.
Well,
I was really like the whole. I do appreciate the value of stuff, or the power of stuff.
Yeah, he was kind of like on a quest for a new prop because he lost his boomerang. So I guess that's what it was. Like, do you not respect the power of the whatever the hat or
what
the
I
lens
bring to
or
this group?
Yeah.
But the thing I like is he never actually states that. That's just kind of a background thing that, I guess he is just trying to replace the boomerang. But it's never like, I'm clearly trying to find my new identity, right? He just goes along with it, so it seems like it's just part of the joke.
Yeah,
it's cool.
He doesn't call attention to the fact he's looking for a new identity, but he is actively looking for a new prop.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, he was even like appraising the guy's torch. Like, it smells manly. I could make use of this. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not right.
Torch guy, I could be torch guy.
But we cut back to the prison and Aang talking about his girls' troubles with
this is just
with
silly.
the prisoners.
Yeah, this is just silly.
This is stereotypical as well, because this has been done in everything. Oh, the rough prisoners that turn out to be soft inside and perfectly nice.
Hearts of gold.
Yeah, never been seen this before. But I suppose at the time we probably hadn't seen it before. At least a lot of us anyway.
The funniest part for me was how you guys already mentioned that he can just sort of casually take his hands out like the stocks or whatever.
That. And when he rests on top of it, it's brilliant.
That's the thing that got me the most. Like the as you just said, Callan, like we have seen this setup in everything ever before. So yeah.
But it was alright. Everyone's seen it someone's first, so it was good for that reason. But this is the best part about it. The detective work for me is when we go back to the siblings and they find the alibi.
This is the one that's actually. Like,
I like this is a proper detective moment where Sokka said, "But look at the shadows. This is clearly not sun's rise. This is sunset." That was cool, and even just the shooting of the scene as well. The lighting again and the ambience. It's this episode is a cheap one for sure, but the actual rooms and locations to go to, they still put just enough attention on it, detail in it, that it works.
I mean, it arguably already is this, but that particular clue for me would have made for like a more interesting sort of take on what happened with the Great Divide, where you have like this oral history that's been passed down and like both sides have it wrong or just blindly believe in whatever. Because if they really took this, that evidence back, the mayor could easily say, so whoever painted that, like, I mean, this is a painting, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
like truth is in the eyes of like, what, whatever. So it's like they could have had like a real discourse about it, which this episode didn't need that. I'm not saying that it needed that or needed to be ultra serious, but that idea, if you really pursue it in court, that it wouldn't really hold up. You know what I mean? Or it could easily
there's
not.
a story
Rather.
to be told, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. As much as it's inclined to be true, like, based on everything else that we know, that likely is true. But it just, like it wouldn't necessarily, it could be challenged. You know what I mean?
Could have really been a court case drama if they'd had a few episodes to spend on
That's
it.
what real court case dramas are all about. Like, you'll spend like an entire episode just talking about this painting.
Yeah.
Right.
As a real court case,
we
we'll talk about.
We finally got the
an
crux of the
hour.
evidence. Oh, it's going to work. And then immediately the hammer blow comes down. That's a painting.
By the way,
Your
if
Honor.
anyone has Netflix, you should watch a documentary called The Staircase.
The Staircase and
Yeah.
Making a Murderer. I don't know if you've seen that one, but that's also very good as well.
I haven't seen that one, but like The Staircase was like really interesting. I did watch that one all the way through. But
Right.
in any case, so that was a
Yes.
random shout out.
In any case,
Over.
yeah.
Mm.
Oh my
But,
God. That almost went over my head. Good work.
Oh, and I forgot about the bubble cigar thing he had going on. He's trying to be Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, no, I didn't
Yes,
forget
yeah,
about
he's
that.
definitely
yeah, like
Sherlock.
that's what I mean. That's one of his props. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which he makes use of actually in this episode. I guess the way he gets rid of it, like because you never see it again, as far as I know. But in any case,
But they take the evidence back to the mayor, and this is, or the town at least, and this is where they find out that the justice is not the way we expect it to be. This is not fair trial situation. This
Not
is
about evidence
justice
at
is
all.
just us. So the mayor is a twat, basically.
I tell the story, and then you tell your story, and I decide what's right.
Yep. And they do that amusing kind of zoom focus thing where what with the I love that for the comedy of Avatar. It always works really well. And yeah, we have the trial, which Aang completely blows. Even if they were going to listen to the evidence, it would not have worked in this situation.
I was gonna say, if my life depended on it, I know he's only 12, but there were only like really 3 details to memorize, and he really got them all kind of not right. So he's not.
But he got them not right, I feel like, in a way that kind of makes sense, because if you didn't fully like listen to what Sokka and Katara were saying, you're like, something about the statue and the temple not at the same time. There's a foot.
Oh, yeah,
and, like he's just like
He literally
saying
said,
the key points.
I have big feet, and it's like
Yeah.
Aang,
No,
You
I
could have
know.
just said Kyoshi had big feet.
I mean, technically,
that's
yes,
easy
you
to
have
remember.
big feet, but
Yeah, I agree with you, Anton. The execution of how stupid that was made sense as much as it could have done. That what he was saying fit, at least apart from the foot one.
like he was saying the key
but-
points, but they just
Yeah.
he didn't connect the dots.
And I liked
It's
how
like,
they were
I
omitting
just
just the
can't
right
fathom, it's
details
like,
to
why would
completely
you
make
not
that evidence fall flat.
We have 3 details for you. Just like at least remember one, or like how to
Yeah.
explain it well.
Or one
But I
very
mean, like,
well.
This is another
You
one of
gotta
those, earth-bending power moments where he's just not paying attention. I don't care about this for unknown reasons.
To say,
Going back from the prison
earth-bending
episode.
style.
I love that moment. Ugh.
That is the great divide between finales. Is whether or not
Yes.
you like that moment.
Yeah.
It's the Scott Pilgrim of the
Oh
show.
god, I hate Scott Pilgrim so much.
Well, that explains that. Oh, I don't have time for this.
I'm done.
That was officially seriously. That was officially the most animated I've ever seen him.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
kidding. Like
You're not wrong.
for that to be the issue.
I'm gonna pretend I never heard that. So it can
Okay,
remain
let's
funny.
just say
I'm gonna pretend
stylistically,
I never
the
heard
execution of that film stylistically, I appreciate. It was well directed and took things from the comic well, but in terms of what's actually happening, I could not care less about that film.
I have never felt more blessed to have not seen that movie because I literally I can myself.
Oh my goodness.
The negative, the positive, and the neutral. We are all 3 of the
I have
genres.
never ever heard that from his mouth.
We'll get
Ever.
there eventually, I'm sure. But yeah, we have Iroh talking to Zuko, which is one of my favourite scenes in the entire show, full stop. This is one of the best Iroh moments for me. The message he's sending Zuko and the delivery of it is just, perfection.
You you liked the actual speech, which is fine, but to me, it just like sounds like Iroh, like everything he says is like great to me, like pretty much. But I really like the condensed version of it, where he's like, to be honest with you, the best tea, it tastes the same whether it comes in like a porcelain pot or a tin cup. I really like that.
Yeah, so do
He
I.
could have left
I like that better than the more preachy thing that he did later in this scene. Because I know you guys said you guys liked it live. I feel like it was a little bit.
Oh, I like it all together.
I
like it all together. I just made note. I just put that specific note in the notes because I knew I wanted to remember it verbatim. I love the entire thing, but that's not the bit that stands out to me alone. The entire scene needs to be done the way it is because otherwise it would have been too preachy and on the nose. It would have been just delivering a wise man quote.
Right, because at least he's taking through the steps rather than going straight to just being like, "I'm going to tell you life lesson."
Precisely, it was a moment of simple, like, to be honest. It's a conversational note when he talks about the teapot, and then it's only when Zuko slips and he sees Zuko slip into that mentality that he's no Zuko. That's when he steps up with the actual wise man quote. So it makes sense to be delivered then. The whole scene needs to be as it is. I wouldn't have just been as interested if it was just the one line.
It's a little bit of a muddled scene for me because what it's actually about, when he's talking about like hope, you know what I mean? That doesn't really have much to do with like what Zuko's been doing. Like Zuko's, to me, when he's stealing, is sort of like the end justifies the mean sort of thing throughout these episodes. And this becomes whether or not, I guess the idea being that with Azula on their case and having played a hand in Zhao's defeat up north, that because Iroh says, for whatever reason, perhaps for those reasons, that even if they do capture the Avatar, that's not necessarily going to make his problems go away anymore. And so Zuko hones in on so there's no hope at all kind of thing. And that's when Iroh sort of pivots to, okay, so that's what we're going to talk about now. We're going to talk about, so it's almost two lectures in one. Like the teapot thing, like the rich thing, like that, the simple honor and poverty, that really has almost nothing to do with this hope comes from inside thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's a lot packed into that one scene.
Yeah, completely agree. It's definitely kind of a mixed message, or not a mix because that makes it sound like they're opposing, but differently multiple messages to this scene for sure, and that kind of muddles it a bit, I think, in terms of the drama. But the reason I like it is because it's a reactionary moment from Iroh. He wouldn't have brought that up if Zuko hadn't specifically shown a moment of despair there. And I love the desperation when Zuko, when he grabs him by the shoulder and turns around. It's a very quick action. And you see Iroh kind of leaping on that one because he understands the significance of it, and this is important. I need to hammer this lesson in now.
And he's speaking from experience too, because he knows exactly what that kind of despair does to a person because he's gone through that himself and barely got out of it. We don't even know specifically how he did. We just kind of we can kind of guess at it, but we can tell in this moment that it really means it's significant to him to not see Zuko go down the same path.
Yeah, and it's the thing as well for me is that it's a lesson everyone should take to heart. This, of all the lessons Iroh teaches in the show, this one matters perhaps most for me. Do not give in to despair ever. You don't have to win; you just have to fight, and that's the message getting across. I love that. It's something that everyone should take to heart and carry through their lives forever because it's important.
I guess that's the thing. That's the thing I like about it is that I don't really think that this moment is about that. Really, because Zuko doesn't really think about it or take it to heart yet. You see, over the course of this, Zuko's arc in general, including what happens in Book 3, but even in the flashback episode, Zuko alone, Iroh's always been teaching him that, that never give up without a fight. That's what's inscribed on his dagger. So I mean, it's cool how that's like a through line of their relationship. I just don't have it linked to this moment in my head specifically, I suppose, even though it's brought up here.
Yeah. It's just the overall quote is one of my favorite things that he's ever said. It's so cool. Even the ending of it. That is the meaning of inner strength. It's like yes, it is the meaning. Thank you. It's so poignant. But yeah, the actual scene itself as a whole, I need the entire thing. I couldn't have just had that one line. It would have been preachy, as you said.
Now we go back to the culmination of the trial, I suppose.
And Avatar Kyoshika turns up.
I not to nitpick, but I feel like this is a little bit of a weird scene transition because the mayor said it's just me and the accused. So it's how did they find the time to dress him up like Kyoshi anyway? For him to do his Avatar Kyoshi here, like that stupid thing he did. I'm like, so did they have a recess or I mean, and why? Because the mayor just seems like such a douche that he wouldn't have allowed that, especially because he was just going to be okay, trial's over, you lose, you're guilty.
It's absolutely one of those hand wave moments. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And the ridiculousness of this entire episode, that's something we should touch on that we haven't really spoken about yet. This is an extremely silly episode. And we're talking about all the best parts about it, but yeah, in between them, there are moments where you're like, what? This is, it's all done for comedy. It's not like it's just bad writing, but it's definitely one of those episodes that you think of when you think the comedic aspects of the show, toned up to the extreme.
And did they steal Kyoshi's stuff?
I mean, presumably they asked for it.
I would think they would
the guy
ask
was
for
like,
it. Yeah.
That guy was like, "Don't touch anything." I feel like he wasn't about to give him a thing. So, but maybe not. But I mean, it could
Post
just
in
be
the
like
comments
lookalike
what
stuff.
you think, guys. Do you think they stole it, or
if
do you think they
stole
borrowed
it, or
Like for my money, that was either like replicas and not really her stuff, or they stole that shit. That's just my
Couldn't have
feeling
been
on it.
replicas. 'Cause they wouldn't have been. They wouldn't have worked otherwise. They
Well,
wanted it for the effect, didn't they?
also the silliness is just her manifesting too, because before it was a huge thing to get Roku to manifest himself with the solstice happening, and then now it's just kind of like,
Oh wait,
he really just wore her
like,
clothes.
This has come up a few times now. To my mind,
so
the
you're
way
saying-
this works. Sorry, Matt. The way, to my mind, the way this works and has to work for everything that we've seen to make sense is that the solstice unlocks, or at least the initial spiritual connection to your past lives unlocks the potential, and then once you've got to that point,
I like that
it summons up for the future. Because otherwise, it makes no sense. Because there are so many instances. This isn't just like the one case. So many times when the Avatar realizes or actualizes it in the world, that it has to be the point where the solstice unlocks it, or at least the first point of contact does.
It almost never happens, but there's like every time it does happen, there's no reason why it should. Like I feel like him wearing her clothes has nothing to do with any of this. I feel like she just did this because when Zhang was all, "No, I can't teach you," and like Roku's just like, "You will teach the Avatar," and it's like, "Oh, okay, I guess like you can just do that." So but I mean, it just seems like I feel like they only do it when
or it could
they
be a
realize
tie
that-
to the specific nation, because
That's
it was
true.
Roku
Yeah,
who
but
showed
that's
himself
okay.
as Zhang Fire Nation, and here it's like, okay, this is a very Earth Kingdom dependent thing, and they're mad at me, so let me come out here and like
I was just gonna say
fend for myself.
that actually really makes sense because they only do it when Aang's getting absolutely nowhere, and it's like, okay,
Right.
Of course, yeah.
before you get yourself killed or something.
Yeah, but up north, Kurek would have just been like, "I'm lazy and Katara's got this. She'll sort that pocket." like he was that's actually
Just go
in
with the
character.
flow.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
There's just the barest amount of sense attached to it. As long as you go with the whole, the first contact unlocks the potential, because it can't just be they need to solstice, because that makes no sense. It happens way too much outside of the solstice for it to be a thing.
And I
And
like the
like I
idea
said,
that
it
it's the
fits
same
each
avatar,
each
but they
avatar.
are different images to each person that it shows up to, similar to the way I initially thought Force Ghost works, and that's how to the person that knows that entity before they died, that's how they see them. That's why Obi-Wan's old. That's why Anakin is old, supposed to be old, and Yoda's old. Not like, just like this is them in their prime kind of a situation. It should mold itself to, these people who knew her as Kyoshi, Zhang knew the Avatar as Roku. So it could be that it's the same entity, but just implanting what that person knows best.
Yeah, we never see an old Kyoshi, or really like Roku's the only like one that I know by name that looks old. You know what I
Older,
mean? So
right.
it's like, there's no way Kyoshi looked that good like when she was 220. There's just no way. Sorry,
That
Kyoshi.
was her when she actually was defeating Chin and stuff.
Yeah. But I think also with the solstice thing was the one thing that differentiates that is that Roku straight up like destroyed that temple. Like, you know what I mean? These every other time that they possess Aang, they don't like really do anything.
Yeah,
they just
very
talk,
limited.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Which I
think
is
that may be specific to the solstice. That was
Oh
my
yeah,
one
yeah.
thing
No, I
wanted to
don't
add to
mean. Yeah,
that discussion.
I don't mean to say that they can come back
The
and do
power spelling.
Avatar bend and full
Mhm.
to that level. I just meant the
No,
just the
I wasn't,
actualization. Yeah, no, I
No,
just saying.
I get that. It's just like I feel like they can do that part more or less whenever they feel they need to, but actually being able to have an effect on the world with their bending again, I think that's like solstice related stuff.
Yeah, and it's the same with stuff like Avatar Day. When he's going to the Avatar state and they can appear and give him the spiritual visions in kind of speed time, frozen time, whatever. That that's the same thing as well. But just when they do the actualization, I think that can happen anytime they want. It's just they choose to, and they choose to do it sparingly for obvious reasons, and the repercussions and what would happen if they didn't. Just on a cultural level, if you could speak to someone from like 600 years ago at a moment's notice, why wouldn't they use that more? So they have to keep it relatively on the down low. Yeah, there was something else I wanted to mention as well. You talked about it a second ago, but I've lost it now. God damn it.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I was forgetting it.
So Aang has his, fail where he tries to pretend to be Kyoshi basically, and the guy's like, "You've made a mockery of this, and I'm sentencing you now." And then Kyoshi crashes the party,
Yes,
which is
and literally
like,
blots out the sun with the dust cloud she throws up. Very cool.
I really
very
liked
dramatic.
the background music during all this. I really thought that was like just really powerful and swelling, and I don't like to use the word epic, but it is in this particular
It
case.
fits sometimes.
And Jennifer Hill, like when you need like a strong female, like authoritarian voice, like
Wait,
she's
time out. Jennifer Hale did this voice.
You didn't? How can you not immediately recognize it? It's like the quintessential Hale voice.
Yeah, he's not like he doesn't have the. Ear
I didn't
for
know
it.
Mark Hamill was a Ozai. I didn't
Oh,
know
fair
that
enough,
either.
fair enough.
No?
But yeah, no, this is Hale, and I love it for it because, like as Matt says, if you want to give a strong female authoritative voice without stripping it of the personality,
Yeah.
mind blown.
Yeah.
Without stripping it of the personality, because she has this very specific. I wouldn't call it feminine flair, but it's there's a grace to how she says things. Even when she's giving a really harsh, severe line, that she has grace to it, and I love that because it fits the character perfectly.
Yeah, there's wisdom behind it.
Yeah.
Which is why Femshep is best chef.
Yes, wisdom behind the mundane. Femshep is best shep. It's only shep. That's absolutely true. But yeah, the wisdom behind the mundane. Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it.
Oh my
how
God,
she
can you
comes
do the
across as
audiobook,
everything she's saying is
please?
important. Oh,
I'm gonna
please.
do it right now.
She'd be
Please.
way too expensive. Way too expensive.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
Those
Small
folks,
thing,
they
that's
get
true.
like dollar per
Damn
word
it.
ratios. Like there's no way that she's going to read a book. Like, or at least they wouldn't pay for her to read a book. Rather,
Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame. That would be amazing.
it would be cool though. I hope the universe proves me wrong on that one, but I just feel like she's too expensive for that.
Yeah. But yeah, the
Did it
whole
for Ahsoka.
yeah, the whole that's true. The whole but then again, she's going to be much cheaper, so yeah, well. But the tale of the island's origin was cool. Again, it's silly as hell because I mean, even just the way she blasts Chin with wind and all his clothes like just fly off, and he's still hanging there in that pose, like focused. And the way she slices the island up, which to use the word again, epic, very cool. But it's just when she air bends it away, it's like, what, really? This is pushing the limits of cartoonish, but
So
it's still really
that
cool though.
part, I don't mind any of that part, like how she actually creates the island. It is a bit silly, like, well, I mean, it played with that all throughout, like when
I believe Avatar State could do that. I don't think it's that's
yeah, right.
Oh no,
But
it's not without the possibility. But I just think that air bending it, pushing it away rather than water bending or something else. It seemed like it seemed a bit.
actually making an Earth.
Yeah. No, the splitting is
diverging.
perfectly fine. Yeah.
I feel like she probably
that.
is. Like that can't all be air bending.
Yeah,
like
it would have to be
like
water as
that's,
well.
there's got to be water bending involved in that. And even as she's doing it, you could still see like the molten magma underneath it. Like so, she's using all four, like all throughout. I feel like.
Yeah. Because visually, it could have been made more clear on that one.
The sort of tonal whiplash is the stuff where it goes like, grand scale, like epic, Avatar background music, and then she walks into frame, or like he comes into frame and he's very tiny, and it goes wah wah, like in the middle of that, like literally there's like a horn, signaling he's short. So I mean, that's the stuff I thought you were gonna say. I didn't find it funny how she created the island. I thought it was awesome. I love just the way I love when she first does the earth bending. I just like the crack, like that. Like that sounds scary to me. I love that.
She's definitely one of the more intimidating avatars for me. Not just because of her personality, but her frame, the way she executes her moves. She's very clinical, and it makes sense for an earthbender that she'd be very stop start. As opposed to the flowing, wind.
Even with her other bending things too, not just with her earth bending.
Yeah, of course, all of them. She takes her earthbending mentality to each of the forms, and each of the bending styles. It matches, in contrast against Roku and Aang, who are very flowing and graceful in their own different ways.
Yeah,
Just
like
really
if you look at her
stands out.
airbending, she just totally just boom and then
Yeah,
boom
the fans,
out. Like,
the fans
that's
just
very
jabbing out.
That's very earthbender.
Yeah, it's very cool.
It's very airbending.
But yeah,
the
scale thing
antithesis
as well.
to Chin being very small. I think that also works for an earthbender as well, because still being stout and grounded, I feel like
yes.
is something that's beneficial to an earthbender. So being short doesn't necessarily isn't a detraction
Of
from
course,
him.
yeah.
Just so we can point that
No,
out.
no,
like a
yeah.
dwarf, it
No
makes
argument for me.
sense.
Yes,
of
like
the
a dwarf.
earth and stout and strong, yeah, definitely. But you have the
Well,
two
I mean-
extremes of both. It's cool.
We know it's not because Toph, but like she's the shortest, right? Like at this point in the series,
yeah.
like
by
pretty
far.
much.
She's
Yeah.
even short when she's. I mean, well, granted, she's an old lady, so she's a little bit shorter. But I think she.
I feel like
Oh
when
no
she's like,
no adult.
when she's like a normal adult, she's
chief.
normal size.
Yeah, she's normal
Yeah,
size.
she's still
Chief,
shorter,
right.
but she's she's nowhere near that short though. Yeah, that's for sure.
That's
for
like
short.
her hair helmet like gives her like an extra foot worth of.
Right.
But yeah, that wraps up with Kyoshi creating the island and blasting off, and leaving Aang to the whole you kind of confessed situation. As we cut to Zuko, who decides from his. I don't like this because I don't mind him setting out. I think it's perfectly timed in the series, but this being the impetus for it, his I thought a lot about what you said, and I thought we can't go, carry on together. And I was like, what? That you think there's nothing to be gained right now when Iroh just dropped an extremely valid point of wisdom on you? I don't see the reason here. I felt there was a bit of a disconnect in the writing on this one for me.
I think I would have to agree, and that's because when I look back on that conversation, I'm not really sure which message Zuko even like listened to, if either of them. So yeah, it does seem like they just needed to have them go their separate ways for the purpose of the arc of the book, really, and so they just used this as the time to do it, even though it didn't have the most sort of well conceived or I mean, it's
the
fine.
least empathetic Zuko on like all fronts, like almost every scene.
This is almost the start of his arc for this series. We've been looking at this, not this series, this season. Sorry, to use your vernacular. We've been looking at this from the arc of what we know of the overall show. But if you don't know anything about Zuko at this point, other than what we've seen, this is kind of the start point for his true, reformation arc. Stumbling block like not included.
It was strong reintroduction of the character and like his motives, like when we meet Azula and all that, and they part their ways with the Fire Nation and all, like pretty much officially. And then we get the door open to it, like when he was meeting the Earth Girl who was tending to their wounds or whatever, or Iroh's itchiness rather, and they stole her. You guys call them chocobos or whatever.
Chocobos.
But
chocobos.
And then after that, kind of hit the pause button. Like he hasn't really like he was in the swamp episode, but he didn't really do anything other than get swords from that douchebag. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
it
like
was just set up for this episode, really.
Yeah, and even now, like he's just been kind of not really learning anything for like a little while. So it is like you're right, like sort of. I don't know if it's the start, but just like the continue, like we've hit the play button again.
Precisely, from the end of the book one. It's the start of it for this particular season. And then and the next time we see him is when we really start to get the empathy kicked up, because that's when he's fully becoming a defined character again. It helps that it's one of the specific single episodes you think about when you think great Zuko story writing as well. But it's just he's not at his best here. It's and for me it's a disconnect between the scenes. It wasn't that he didn't take only one of the lessons. None of the lessons he was learning from Iroh in that scene or was supposed to have been learning had anything to do with the idea of maybe we should split up, maybe I should find my own path, that kind of thing. It didn't.
I agree with that.
Except maybe something you give yourself. Hope is something you give yourself. But even that doesn't preclude getting.
That's I guess that would be the closest.
Yeah,
and he should have at least brought that up, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to listen to you, Uncle.
I need to go and find
or something. Something like
that." Even then, I feel like that's not really like his.
Of course not. It doesn't preclude getting rid of Iroh, but it's the closest they get.
It doesn't really have a bookend that, but I'm sort of okay with this though, because unless I miss my guess or unless I'm just wrong and he's in Blind Bandit, which I don't think he is, the next time we see him is Zuko alone, which is
next time. I'm pretty sure
like the redemption for this, basically. Like that episode we get into really what makes Zuko tick. But finishing up business back at the
Wheel of Death,
the Wheel of Punishment.
Right.
Sorry about that. My phone.
Nice. I'm surprised that the shark eating thing wasn't like the Unagi.
Yes. It's in the territory. Yeah.
But they have the platypus bear, which is cool.
Yes, they did.
One of them.
Were they seriously going to? Was he seriously just going to accept being boiled to death as well? And is that what we're supposed to think leading up into the intro of this? Like,
my idea was that he was going to do something with airbending or water building. Where
I feel like if they had actually tried to do that, the Avatar state would have just taken over.
Oh yeah, of course.
Kyoshi would have split the island again or something.
Yeah, there's no way in hell they'd let Aang pull any of this crap off.
Wasn't I just down here 10 minutes ago? Like I have to come back here and mop up another mess. But anyway. What I found, you mentioned earlier that like Sokko's food went like somewhere like out of missing, like in frame, Callan. They took a cheat here. because like for the sake of the joke, when like when they're ambushed by the Rough Rhinos, right? And they're like, "We're here to ruin your town because Fire Nation." They move the dial over like one tick to there community service. You serve our community and get rid of them. If you actually, this is like
if you look at it, they're not. It's not supposed to be next to it.
It's not the same. Like it's they changed the structure of the wheel for the joke. I thought that's a bit lazy, but I would do the same thing if I had to. But I
I'm not
normally
redrawing that.
Right.
Yeah.
I normally don't notice stuff like that, but I did in that particular case.
Yeah, it's an amusing
also,
one for sure. The thing that stood
the
out for
Rough
me.
Rhinos.
Oh, sorry. You go first.
The Rough Rhinos just seem like a very like aimless crusade to me.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna because in one episode they're after the
They're
Avatar.
using the Fire Nation as a facade. They're
Yeah.
not really like working for Fire Nation, I don't think. Or at least it's more like
Freelance.
yeah, like freelance, but like the similar concept happened in Game of Thrones where Tywin was letting the Mountain like go like just roam free and like do whatever and just like wreak havoc upon Westeros. That was in.
See, I feel like that was in
Art of War.
retaliation for Catelyn taking Tyrion, though.
That's true.
Riverland, so that's where her home, like she's from the. Shit, this is other nerd like territory. I can't remember the name.
The
name of her
brain
town.
for it.
Riverrun. That's But I was trying to think of her. The hold. Like it was called Riverrun, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, I just completely lost like the Avatar point.
The Rough Riders.
yeah.
You're talking about the Rough Riders.
Because when they show up, it's like in the beginning of this, they're like after like the Avatar. Now they're just trying to wreck a town, and later on they're hunting Zuko and Iroh. I guess they're just trying to get paid. Like they're just like aimlessly trying to do like there's a reward for this or a reward for that. But it's because they didn't like know Aang was here. They're just like, we claim this village in the name of like the Fire Nation. And I'm like, for real? I mean, this just seems a little. We're the bad guys of this episode.
Yeah,
I guess.
it's
Right.
very,
Very
very
sad
lazy and
cartoon
cheap for
guy.
Avatar. Yeah, it's. But if this is the worst it gets, which pretty sure it is. I can't remember any worse offenders. Then this is fine. It's again, it's one of those silly episodes. This is one that's renowned for when you look back on it being the weird, not as good, but still kind of interesting in some ways episode. There's not quite. It's nowhere near Great Divide, but it's definitely down on the lower end of the scale. So you can expect some of these things, but you're right. It is a weakness of the episode. Those guys, because like what is the point of them? And the fact that they do turn up elsewhere as well.
Oh, I didn't notice it. I wouldn't have noticed it the first time I saw it. It's just taking into account all the other times that they show up. It's like you guys aren't really doing anything in particular. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah, you could have done with some fleshing out. That's for sure. The thing that stood out to me though is that and I love the moment is Aang has a Kyoshi moment when they attack and when the guy turns it to community service is like but the lead up to that is Aang saying, "Gee, I'd love to help, but I'm supposed to be boiled in oil." The way even the sideways glance, obviously the makeup being present, and the delivery of that line, I can so hear that in Jennifer Hale's voice. With Kyoshi actually being the one present, that was just a really cool line for me. I love it. And then I wish he hadn't dropped the garb. I wanted to see Aang kicking ass in Kyoshi gear. Because he only keeps the fangs and the makeup.
I'm
Fangs,
okay
not
with
fangs.
it because it looks like he was very much swimming in those voluminous robes. Like he couldn't-
And they were
he, you know,
overgrown on him.
Yeah,
so.
it's true, but still, just it was a cool image. But yeah, then we have the battle. Basically, the battle ensues, and there's a lot of moments of
I always
creativity
like.
here.
I always like when he uses like those fans because like I
Keep
feel like he
the
should
fans.
just keep those. You just keep those in your arsenal. Like they enhance your airbending.
Ditch the staff.
Yeah, I mean staff is cool and all,
'Cause-
but those fans.
Because presumably Kyoshi was the one who first utilized those. Because she's not an airbender,
believe so, yeah.
and she, it could have been even something as simple as she wasn't the best airbender, so used that to supplement her talents or lack thereof for the airbending styles. Because it's not like she was taking that from her culture, and it was the Kyoshi fans. She created the Kyoshi warriors, so they were modeling after her, not the other way around. So she was the one who introduced it all. Maybe that's something we'll learn in the novel. I don't know. I hope so. I hope that's the kind of thought they're going to be putting into this. But
Yeah, and I think I've said in like an off camera to you that I always felt like the Kyoshi fighting style like kind of took cues from airbending anyway.
Yeah.
So I feel like she like integrated those. But
very
in
cool.
any case, that's like fan theory stuff that we could talk about in another video. But Yeah, you were moving us on before.
Yeah, just the battle.
finished
Basically,
someone.
there's points of creativity throughout. The way Katara uses her very limited supply of water, because she does a lot with that single
I
flask.
thought that was hilarious how easily that guy was taken out.
Yeah.
The guy with the chain.
Yeah.
Because he was immediately like encircled by it, and he just looked like he was going, oh, okay. like he had like there was like no recourse or no, I'll get you. There was just like, oh, I'm done.
Whoops.
that was like a Simpsons moment or something.
Yeah, and the moment when she's whipping the rhinos to make them run. I like her creative use of such little water, because she doesn't have. There's not a lot. It's kind of a weakness of waterbending. If you don't have access to a pool of water nearby and you've only got your little flasks on your body, there's very limited amount of stuff you can do in terms of scale. You have to make a very small amount work very well, and she does that. You see that throughout all of these episodes. It's very cool. And obviously Sokka is kind of boomying at this point. He's just accidentally defeating enemies with the spectacle
By
magnifying glass
Boomy,
thing.
are you talking about Boomy Aang's
Boomy
kid?
from Korra, yeah.
Okay.
This is one of Sokka's more extreme
No.
examples of that.
No, not Boomy Aang's kid, Boomy Sokka's nephew.
Well,
'Cause, like,
yeah,
that's where
precisely,
you
yeah.
learned all this.
Oh,
Yeah.
well
Right.
played.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're not
Well
wrong. Very
fucking
well done.
played.
Because it's true. Because he's very
Totally
much
true. No, it's
encapsulating
totally
that
true.
at
That's
this point.
completely true.
Yeah.
That's great.
And this is one of the more egregious examples. Like, Sokka usually has more of a plan behind his shenanigans, even if they're going awry. Whereas here, this was just complete, like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to accidentally just win.
It was kind of like a montage of victory, basically, which is
Right.
fine. But yeah, like
the episode needs to wrap up. And they're like,
Yeah.
all right,
yeah.
no more time.
Yeah, the only
You get
real
rid of,
point
like,
of
like,
contention was the
bubble
airbending
pot,
one.
the bubble pipe when he threw that, like
Yeah.
at the guy's like arrows, I guess, or whatever. Didn't he? Like he
He throws it onto the
arrows,
arrow,
yeah.
yeah.
which is funny.
But which
But-
if that guy was a Yuyan archer, he should have been able to dodge the fuck out of that. But anyway,
He was probably kicked
didn't
out
have-
for not being good enough.
Yeah, I was
That's
gonna
why
say
he's
it too. He got
He was-
kicked out or something. He was
Yeah.
disadvantaged.
washout.
You're not
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
enough. Sorry, bye. And it's like, damn it. Oh, fine, I'll
You're
just
still
jump in
better
the
than
fight.
everyone else, but you're not good enough for us.
Yeah. But yeah, then obviously the only real point of contention there in the battle outside of the victory montage, as you said, is just him v the leader of the Rough Rhinos, which is pretty cool. I like the kind of jousting battle they had, where they jump back and forth in various different configurations. Aang using the
Yeah,
fans, Aang
that was
using
cool.
the air ball, then Aang using the air kick. It was cool to have that, because that's I know it's a small thing, but we haven't seen the kind of jousting style yet on the show. So it's just another twist on the different ways you can display combat.
It was cool watching him sort of just I don't know, like blast through a fire blast, basically.
I think the
And,
last
like,
time we did that was with the blast in the air when they were flying through the blockade. I think when we've seen something that overt anyway. I can't remember, but yeah, it's cool to see
I
that.
was
It's
like-
nicely animated.
That was sort of like him because they like launched a projectile at him and he sort of like disintegrated it, right? Like I think that's what
it was a
referencing.
blast
Yeah.
of the rock with the fire.
Yeah.
On it,
This was like in some ways just a little bit more direct, I guess, in a weird way, because like he just sort of encircled himself with airbending and let that carry him through like the attack, and he just upped his game and won.
And I like that's what ended the victory as well, because the guy wasn't expecting it. It's very unlike
Yeah.
not only Aang but also airbending in general. You don't expect someone to kick straight through your fire blast. And he was blinded by it, but it was
Right.
it was a clever way of defeating him. A cool wrap up for that one.
And then like the battle is like immediately over because like Antoine said, we're running out of time. The episode needs to end, so they
Yeah.
just like faded into the celebration of Avatar Day, or
The day that he was not boiled.
Yeah.
right.
And the dough being uncooked to represent that was I wouldn't have eaten that. I don't know about you guys. Raw dough, no
No.
thanks.
I mean,
Well, if
If
it was
the guy
cookie
was-
dough, then yes.
I would not.
it looked
Rocky
like,
dough so good.
considering how disgusted Aang and Sokka were by it, I'm guessing that it was just like dough, like
sourdough.
like not like
Ugh.
like just nasty pasty
Right.
dough. But yeah, like Sokka said, this is by far the worst town we've ever been to, and I think he's probably not wrong on that. I can't
I would
remember
agree.
exactly. Yeah, I don't know if it's worse than like the Painted Lady town, but it's close. I
We
mean,
haven't been
it's up there,
yet, so it still fits. Yeah.
right?
But yeah, that's this episode. That's kind of that wrapped up our thoughts. I think, guys. Anything you want to say before we finish?
It's silly, but it's entertaining, and the Avatar Kyoshi bit was cool. That's about the extent of my thoughts on this one.
No, nothing major for me. I thought it was it it was weird, mostly, not even so much for what the gang were doing, but mostly the Zuko bits are the ones that like really were like, what's going on here? But other than that, it's all right. I mean, the next few episodes are the ones that are like super dope. So I kind of always don't really care for this one because I'm just like, oh, let me just get to the next set of book 2 episodes.
The last few episodes tend to get skipped by a lot of people, myself included, I think, because they are the roadblock to this,
the preamble to it.
Yeah. This particular season, this book is so good and for so long after this point. It's just episode after episode of really good quality Avatar, some of the best as well. That you just kind of like, okay, let's keep moving on. So I'm really looking forward to covering the next few episodes. It's gonna be super cool.
Yeah, the next few episodes would have been waiting for since we started this.
Oh yeah,
entire since we started
show,
Avatar. Yeah. But in any case, yeah.
But yeah, looking forward to seeing you there for those guys. Let us know in the comments down below anything we've missed or you want to cover in greater detail. I am Retty4, and I still don't have an outro.
Gridget91, thanks for watching. Have a nice day.
Antoine Bandelay, peace, love, and remember, you all are my friends.
Goodbye.